Thank you, Sherry. Excellencies, distinguished panelists, ladies and gentlemen. Shipping is an essential service, yet its role is largely invisible to the general public. The prolonged pandemic causing labor shortages and COVID-related restrictions will hopefully make everyone, from policymakers, producers, civil society, and consumers, realize what systemic failures in this industry would mean to the lives of their citizens. Allow me to share a video by BIMCO that tells it all.
At a time when the world stopped, ships kept moving. People still shopped, ships kept on proving. The volume of trade that's moved by sea, 90% of trade, actually. Crops that are weighed, cars that are sprayed, and it's easy to see the impact this makes. Fruit and vegetables, toys and collectibles, wheats and grains, the blood in the veins. Like to land a farmer is, ships are to the sea. And if the world is the heart, ships are the arteries, which stock the pharmacies, move essential commodities. So there's a lot at stake across these seas. Without these routes, half the world would starve, while the other half would freeze. Without these bright colored containers, the four walls in our house that contain us would be empty. The books we read, the animal feed, the oil we need, the global lives that we lead. No oil, no cars, no essential spare parts. The sea's version of stars, those flickering lights on the horizon, by moon and by sun, but the journey is never done. As a supertanker proves, the distance it moves is equivalent to 3 times around this earth a year. And we are served by over 61,000 ships. The things we buy, the things that shops sell, the 1.7 million seafarers, it's more than just engines that propel this industry. And it's easy to see that a lot is owed to the people that load. 6,000 ports worldwide, but it's not all plain sailing. It's rough seas and piracy warnings and the change that this inevitably causes. The sea covers 70% of our planet, so you can see why we need to plan it. A global community of knowledge and passion, from salt and sugar to the latest fashion. Our ships keep moving products we love using. Ships make the world go. They help trade flow and let business grow.
So how has the pandemic affected this essential service of shipping? In Q1 2020, production around the world literally stopped, causing a massive shortage of goods and spare parts in the supply chain. Goods in transit reached their destinations, facing shortages of port workers, customs officials, and inland restrictions imposed by local authorities. Consignees faced difficulty to receive the inventory that were bound for retailers, schools, and food outlets, which were closed. This created a breakdown in the logistics chain. As a result, shipping companies aggressively laid up ships due to lower demand. In Q3 and 4 of 2020, the USA led a resurgence in demand for goods, ships diverting to change ship's crew, as well as quarantine at sea requirements between ports, has lessened capacity to carry goods, all of these causing a spike in freight charges. Lower port productivity caused by labor shortages throughout the logistics chain has resulted in massive port congestions, further taking ships' capacity out of the market. Congestion around major ports will mean consumers will be paying more for gifts and food over the Christmas holidays. How has the pandemic affected the seafaring community? Each ship has only 20 to 21 seafarers who operate ships of all sizes. They work a maximum of 10 months on board with a 2 months vacation. Some can work with shorter 4 to 6 month cycles. Hub ports and airport lockdowns around the world meant that thousands of seafarers were stranded on board, having to agree to work way beyond the ILO-approved maximum work period. Remember that seafarers are not allowed to disembark from the ship and thus have very little social interaction outside of the vessel's crew. The IMO, the International Maritime Organization, categorized seafarers as essential workers, encouraging countries to create green lanes in ports and airports. The Philippines was one of the few countries that opened green lanes. Other major port hub countries prohibited crew change altogether or imposed very stringent rules. China, for example, which is a major hub port, still does not allow crew change. Ships have to divert to countries like the Philippines with a green lane. While at port, some crew become infected by short personnel who board the vessel. When a ship has a COVID case, most ports will not allow the crew to disembark onto their shores, forcing the ship to divert. Seafarers are often required to undergo a quarantine period in a facility for 7 to 14 days and to be PCR tested before joining a ship. Some crew arrive at the port of destination testing positive. Crew who test positive are sent home. Being stranded at sea and unwelcome at ports. Facing a risk of piracy in certain areas around the world, causing fear. The present port congestion all over major ports has exacerbated the inability for crew to disembark and be replaced. Fragmented travel rules and restrictions have kept hundreds of thousands of seafarers working for as long as 18 months on board. These have all created anxiety, loneliness, isolation at sea, long quarantine periods when they come home. All these have caused growing mental health issues and at sometimes suicide. All of us are hoping, of course, for vaccinations as the game changer. Countries like the US and some in the EU are vaccinating crew at ports. Countries like the Philippines and India have prioritized seafarers to receive vaccines, but there is still not enough for everyone. We in the Philippines were allowed by our government to buy some vaccines so that we could accelerate vaccination for our own seafarers. So there are important recommendations we make. One is to push for universal categorization of seafarers as essential workers by each member state of the IMO, if they have not already done so. Two is remove restrictions hampering the movement of transport workers. Create a seafarers' green lane in major ports and airports that should extend into the new normal to ensure safe passage of these very essential workers. Three, agree on globally harmonized digital vaccination certificates secured in a blockchain so seafarers can move safely to and from their jobs. Four, although many ship owners now provide satellite on board, provide free broadband while at port so seafarers can virtually be with their families. Fora like this give greater understanding on the vital contributions made by ships and seafarers so that they can be more valued and respected for all they do for humanity. Allow me to end with another short video by BIMCO.
We've talked about ships and how they make the world go. But what about us, the seafarers behind cargo? We are an industry that's proud from stern to bow, captains to ratings. And we are asking for governments around the world to take responsibility because we have the right to be safe, to go home after work, to stay protected, not be forgotten about or neglected. Look closely at the job we love to do. Understand what it means to be part of a crew and what life at sea really means. So think about this, that today, while you sit in your office or spend time at home, there are 1 million of us on 60,000 ships. When eyes turned to our industry and saw that trade stopped, they saw the news, the 220,000 tons of steel, but what they didn't see are the people that keep it all together. The 1.7 million of us, the bolts and the screws, the talented crews, the passion, the piracy, the underlying threat, the unique skill set, the relentless shifts and hours, the loved ones of ours, but neither do we, for months on end, pause and comprehend the conditions we face, the risk and unpredictability of this immense open space. Yet we wouldn't trade it for anything. So we ask for support. as we work to connect the world, to enable your everyday, the way you live, the way you play. Life on demand, a seamless flow. We are the people on board the ships that make the world go. It's our responsibility to facilitate your lives. It's the government's turn to look after ours. It's time for this sea that brings us so much to bring us all together, as we ask you to recognize the role we play, not only in world trade, but the world. There's more to our industry than the ships you see. Governments need to take action to eradicate piracy and allow us to change crew so that we can keep the world supplied and get home safely. We are key workers too. We hope for a future of care, treatment that's fair. So step up and imagine if everything we did stopped and wasn't there.
Thank you.